And now I will hand over to the project team of DeepChef, to Sanurag and Roshni, who will present their project DeepChef. The floor is yours.
Let me get started. We are the first team number 2, actually, part of Stream 2, which is called the Stream on Artificial Intelligence. And we have been working for the last 2 months on a project for predicting wildfire danger. This project is called DeepChef. And let me get you to the specifics. So before going into what wildfire danger means and how we calculate it, I'll give you a bit of the background on the project and why we decided to work on this. So wildfires are these very large uncontrolled fires that happen in these forest areas, and they burn and spread very rapidly. And this is very dangerous because it causes the loss of so much land and so many homes, so many forests. And this destruction is obviously very harmful to us. But the problem is that the occurrence of wildfires, although natural, has increased steadily over the past couple of years because of the changing climate and how the climate is getting warmer and warmer for the past couple of years. So the reason we started to work on this is because maybe wildfire prediction can be improved. We do have systems that have been developed over the last decades that are able to predict wildfires. But we are working on this to incorporate the latest technology and developments in artificial intelligence, to incorporate these so that we can account for the patterns in weather, and we can find what exactly are the necessary conditions that can cause a wildfire, whether it's the hot temperature, whether it's the dryness, whether it's the amount of fuel in the atmosphere. And being aware of these exact conditions, what their importances are in the causation of a wildfire, can thereby help us better manage and prevent these natural disasters. So moving on to our project, we are trying to predict wildfire danger, measure and predict wildfire danger. And I've put a screenshot on this slide from the European EFIS system. In this system, we have a classification, as you can see at the bottom right corner, going from very low danger to extremely high danger. And it shows you a map of different parts of the world, and it gives you the coordinates of, which locations have the possibility of a high fire. And this is measured using various indexes. Actually, the one that I'm focusing on right now is called FWI. We are also working on some other indices that Anurag will present to you in a short while. But starting with the Fire Weather Index, or FWI, this is basically a meteorologically calculated index that's used worldwide in various systems to estimate the danger associated with a particular fire. What this actually means, if I give you a pictorial representation, is here we see a fire where the FWI index is calculated to be the number 15. And according to the system we are using, this is a moderate fire. If the FWI is higher, that means the wildfire is more dangerous. So here we have another image of FWI where the value is 24, and this is classified to be a highly dangerous fire. So it can get worse than this. This is the entire classification range of FWI. Anything below 5.2 is very low, and anything above 50 is extremely high. The weather readings which are taken to calculate the FWI value are these 4 variables. It's very simple, actually, the calculation. It's using air temperature, relative humidity, wind speed, and rainfall. And these are calculated, these are measured at ground to collect these values at a particular location. And at every location, this is collected at a particular time, which is the local noon, when the sun is directly over the head. And then we arrive at the fire weather index, which is the value that we want to know whether how bad the fire is going to be at that location. So now we have systems that use FWI for the prediction of wildfire. And these systems have been developed since the 1970s and are still in use. The one that we've been working on is the EFIS system, and I showed you a screenshot in the very beginning. The system works very well, and it gives us, it can predict these forest fire indices up to 10 days in advance. But there are certain aspects of the system that can be improved, like being able to predict in every region of the world. I think currently it predicts better in North America or Europe or specific locations, but it doesn't predict equally accurately all over the world. So that is something that we want to improve. And we also want to improve the time scale of prediction, because currently we can predict up to 10 to 15 days ahead, but it would be nice if we can capture the seasonality or the long-term effects of these wildfires, because this is an annual problem in various parts of the world. Next, I think we'll move on to another index similar to the fire danger index. And this will be presented to you by my teammate, Anurag.
Right. So the overview that Roshni gave you, that speaks about one particular index, the fire weather index, and largely what that talks about is what is the danger of a fire getting triggered in a particular place given a certain set of weather conditions. And by weather conditions, we mean those 4 variables that she pointed out. Now, GEF or Deep GEF, as we are going to build, constitutes more than just the danger of a particular fire getting triggered. It also talks about how deadly or how bad could this fire be, or like how big or how dangerous is it in terms of the energy radiated. So that's where the fire radiative power comes out. So this is more of an actual fire measurement. So this is based on the energy emitted by an ongoing fire through radiative processes. And this gives us an understanding of how massive this fire currently is. So while FWI was talking more about what is the danger of a fire getting triggered based on weather conditions, this particular index or this particular parameter tells us about how bad or how big or how massive is a particular ongoing fire in terms of the energy radiated from this fire. And traditionally, the forecasting model for the fire radiative power involves a persistent scheme. That is, we assume that the FRP for the following day is the same as the FRP for the current day. Now, we can, of course, improve on that. We can model a better system. We can use machine learning to give better predictions. So that's where we also incorporate this as a part of Deep GEF. So just for our viewers who are not aware of what is GEF in the first place. So GEF is the global ECMWF fire forecast. And Deep GEF is a pun on that, in that we make a deep learning model that hopefully provides better predictions. Okay, so going ahead, this is an overview of the existing FRP. So this is an actual screen capture from 19th of July. You can see there are some parts in Africa, some parts in Latin America, maybe north of Australia, where there are quite big ongoing fires. And this is the energy radiated from these fires and captured by remote sensing. And this can also be, it's not just on a very low resolution global. You can also zoom in quite a bit. As you can see here, we're looking at 0.5 degree grid cells. So this is from back in June 2015. And we again notice different fires taking place. This is largely in the Asia Pacific region. But the idea is that, yeah, we can capture ongoing fires and their energy in quite good detail, but we want to improve the forecasting of this for the upcoming days. Like, so how this will help us is that given an ongoing fire and a current FRP, we would want to know that over the next 5 to 10 days, is this fire going to get even worse? Is it going to get, is it going to come under control? It is good to have that sort of modeling and prediction. So how do we do this? Like, how is it different? So we take a typical machine learning approach. This is something that is probably the underlying framework for most machine learning projects. You have a lot of data. You train it on a machine learning model. We, in this case, use a deep learning convolutional neural network model, a UNet model to be more precise. And once we have trained this model on this data, and we have some pre-labeled outputs. So we use past occurrences. So let's say for the FWI, we have historical FWI values. So that is what we use as our labels or our ground truth. And then over time, as the machine learns, we are able to make better forecasts and better predictions. So this is a very standard machine learning model. We have not, of course, like developed or invented any of this. Our work is more about optimizing this model to suit both the data and the outputs. And that is what we have been doing over the last 2 months. We have already finished the parts of procuring the data with the help of our mentors from ECMWF. These are quite huge data sets, which is, of course, quite an enjoyable and exciting thing to work with, like 800, 900 GB of data, quite an interesting challenge. And once we were done collecting the data and processing it, we moved forward to actually training our model for predicting FWI. And we're currently in the phase where we work on FRP. And going ahead, as Roshni mentioned, we try to increase the global coverage and also the timescale of predictions. Next up, I'll give you a quick overview of how this happens in the machine learning scenario. So on your left, what you see are the input forcings. These are the 4 variables that Roshni talked about: the temperature, the relative humidity, and such. And they are fed into this machine learning model, and which subsequently produces the output FWI values. So this is a unit style architecture. On our GitHub, we have a lot more detailed overview of this particular machine learning model. So I encourage everyone to go to the ESOC GitHub page and go through all the projects, not just our project. Yeah, and right. So I think I was talking about how it is fun and exciting to work with data, but there are also challenges. So in the global scenario, you don't have a lot of wildfires, which is why wildfires make news. Like, we of course have wildfires, but very large and very big wildfires are not that many, or like not as broad as, let's say, a restaurant in your city, which is why you have this small subset on the left, which tells you that most of the data points to small FWI values. So this is not something that would be a challenge typically, but it is a challenge because we would want to predict all ranges of FWI values. So we want our model to be equally good at predicting high dangerous fires as well as low dangerous fires, which is why we use, again, statistical techniques to transform the data and give us a more uniform distribution. And this has been a learning for us during the course of the work, and it has greatly improved our accuracy as well. Now, diving straight into results. So we have an accuracy level for a 10-day prediction that ranges from 79% to 86%. So this is within the boundary of what we initially proposed when we started the challenge, that we'll have a sort of 80% prediction accuracy. And we have this right now for the fire weather index over a 10-day period. Now, these predictions that we make, they use 4 previous days input of weather variables. So the 4 variables that Roshni mentioned, we input those variables for the last 4 days. So let's say today is Thursday, I input that for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I get the prediction for the next 10 days. Now, there is a certain, a more nuanced view of this prediction accuracy, let's say. So for higher values of FWI, we see a certain dip in the accuracy. It goes down to around 60 to 50%. Whereas for something between 0 to 70, which is the moderate and the slightly heavy fire region, we have pretty good accuracies that are within the 60 to 80 range. Right. And the next thing that we're also working on is that we're doing case studies. So we're specifically looking at very small regions, like actual burning wildfires in Australia, wildfires in Portugal, wildfires in Latin America, in Central Africa. And we specifically look at how well does our model perform in these small geographic locations. That gives us a better understanding of how and where can we improve things. Now, this is sort of a very pictographic and visual representation of what we're actually doing. So on the left, what you see is the real FWI that has been calculated after taking historical observations. So it is not the prediction, but the actual FWI based on reanalysis data. And on the right is what you see, our prediction from the deep learning model. And I think it looks quite consistent, at least from a very pictorial and color-based representation. There are definitely some inconsistencies, but again, this meets sort of the 80% accuracy criteria that we're trying to reach. Now, going ahead, I think that is sort of largely covers what we are working. And of course, I would again encourage everyone to go to our GitHub page and take a look at the code, download it. You can always play with it. The code is open source. We have notebooks that anybody can use to explore them. And yeah, we're open to questions now.
Thank you, Anurag, and thank you, Roshni. The results are quite impressive.